All aboard!
We are about to depart Barber Junction, the building on your left.
The building was built in 1898 and is very similar to passenger stations in small towns across the country through most of the 20th century. Railroad stations were centers of commerce, handling passengers, mail, and Railway Express Agency freight, which is today UPS or FedEx. Our train today is similar to those of the 1950s. Right before the train moves, you'll hear the engineer blow the horn. Two long blasts like this mean the train will move forward, and three short blasts like this mean the train will back up. Train crews use the horn as well as hand signals, lantern signals, and radios to communicate with each other. As we shove north, the tracks out the right side of the train belong to Norfolk Southern and are part of the route between Washington, D.C. and Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, we are exactly halfway between the two cities, 300 miles each way. That is why Spencer shops are located in this precise location. Amtrak trains also run on these tracks and include the Piedmont, Carolinian, and the Crescent, which run as far north as New York City and as far south as New Orleans. The first tracks were laid here in 1850 by the North Carolina Railroad. Before the Southern Railway opened its Spencer shops in 1896, all that was here was farmland and trees. The town of Spencer, like the shops, was named for Samuel Spencer, the president of the railroad. Railroad workers at Spencer had a different living arrangement than textile mill workers in this part of North Carolina. Mill workers generally lived in a company house, shopped at the company store, and made less money than comparable railroad jobs. Rent, utilities, and store items were taken from their wages. Southern Railway employees living in Spencer owned their own house, shopped in the publicly owned stores, and enjoyed higher wages. Railroad jobs were hard to come by, which led many employees to work between 30 and 50 years before retiring. At the same time at Spencer shops. Today, it is one of our restrooms. Coming up on the right side of our train, you will see a medium-sized red brick building. That's called the Master Mechanic's Office. Built in 1911, the Master Mechanic's Office held the offices of the Master Mechanic, payroll clerk, office clerks, and the officials of the Danville Division of the Southern Railway. Today, it houses our administrative offices and the gift shop, which we call the gift station. The big gray building behind the Master Mechanic's Office is believed to be the oldest building on site. It is called Warehouse Number 3. Built in 1896, it housed the Master Mechanic's Office until it moved to the MMO in 1911. From that date to this, it has continued to function as a storage facility as well as an area for special events. The last building in this line is the metal building that has all the windows in it. It is called the Flue Shop. Built in 1924, it was used to store and repair the flues of a steam engine. A flue is a tube that allows heat and smoke from the firebox to travel through the boiler, thus heating the water to make the steam to turn the locomotive's flues. The steam locomotive can have anywhere from 200 to 150 flues inside its core. Today, the Flue Shop houses our museum's antique automobile collection. She was kept right here at these pits for this very occasion, and would ride the train to fulfill the requirements of this law. Later, when a small steam locomotive was rebuilt to move other locomotives around the roundhouse area, it too was affectionately named Maud. Past the stock pins were the transfer sheds, where freight shipments too small to fill an entire rail car were transferred between cars, carrying shipments to many destinations. These included dry and canned goods on their way to shops, farmers' orders for tools and seeds, and large catalog orders, including entire homes. Up to 350 freight cars moved through this facility every day. Both the stock pins and transfer sheds were torn down in the 1960s. the right side of the train, the Spencer Freight Yard is still in current use. The tracks in the South Yard are all that remain of the receiving and classification tracks that once made up the huge yard here at Spencer. This area is still active today and is used for the Salisbury Switcher. The Salisbury Switcher is a local train which takes cars staged from the main line to private rail sidings at different companies all along this section of the Norfolk Southern Rail. You may see its two diesel engines as well as its caboose out the right side of the train. Direction and we'll be headed back to Barber Junction. As we continue down the rail, if you will look out the left side of the train, you'll see a rather odd-looking concrete building with a tower on it. This is called the Sand House, and it too was built in 1913. The Sand House was used to dry screen and store the sand used for locomotives. Today, sand is still used for traction in wet or icy conditions when traveling up a steep grade, or even when pulling a heavy load from a complete standstill. Today, our sand house is not in use, but still stands here in the South End. When a freight train arrived at Spencer, the locomotive was serviced and inspected. Workers washed the locomotive with a mix of synthetic cleaning salt, refilled with water, coal, and sand, and thoroughly inspected the entire locomotive. Any defects would be noted on a card, and the locomotive would either be put on the ready tracks to return to service or moved inside for repairs. The roundhouse was used for the majority of repairs, while the back shop was for overhauls and major work taking more than 3 days to complete.